The Pacers have a bottom three offense this season. What is really holding them back on that end of the floor? Can they actually do anything about it? Plus injuries ruining the fun. The Nets tonight and so much more coming on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, much to discuss, primarily getting really into the weeds on the Pacers offense. I dove in, as I do sometimes, to the numbers in great detail to figure out what exactly is going wrong for this team this season. Why can't they actually score? Some of it seems obvious. Some of it did not. Is it a style thing? Can they actually do anything about this with the players that they have available? We'll talk a little bit of injuries. We'll talk a little bit of Nets and so much more today, because the Pacers need to win some games, and Brooklyn, who they have in town tonight, is easier to beat, let's say. The only winless team left after the Pelicans win on Tuesday night against the Hornets. Okay, let's start with a longer look, albeit through a limited small sample to this point of the season, at the Pacers offense. They're currently 16th on defense and 28th on offense. If you listened to me before the season, I thought the Pacers would be a better defensive team than offensive team this year. I thought it'd be like 13th defense, 17th offense. Not like this, right? They have really struggled to score. And they just played the Bucks, and they scored a solid number in that game, and they figured stuff out offensively in that game, and they adjusted and things were better. There are moments in that game where I'm like, they can't get in the paint at all, and somehow they have no good available open shooters open at the same time. Like, nothing is there. Every time Pascal Siakam, basically against any opponent, dribbles below the free throw line on the other side of the floor, here comes a double team, someone should be open, and it doesn't really happen. I'm like, what is actually going on? Because I see them doing their stuff. Action to action, shot gets created, someone gets in the paint eventually. Not in that Bucks game. But that Bucks game got me thinking about it. Like, someone has to be open for the court to feel this small for the Pacers. And they can't do anything about it in ways that feel very challenging. The spacing isn't there. The passing and scoring is not there. You can see that in the numbers. I've talked a lot about how terrible their shot making has been, but I wanted to get more nuanced into it this time because of how they play and what it means specifically for their finishing. And I wanted to start by looking at something that I would consider a core value of the Pacers offense, and perhaps the least discussed one when people who don't follow the Pacers very often talk about the Pacers. That's their passing. They want to lead the league in passes. They really want to throw it around. They want it to move around and make the defense move and chase the ball and make that be an advantage. Last year, they were second league in passes per game, a smidge behind the Golden State Warriors. This year, the Pacers are first in passes per game, right? They are doing that, and that is something they want to do. That is how they get action to action. That's how they like to play. That to them is they're like, I've talked about this, when they're missing these point guards, they prefer to have point guards. They have very important skills. The reason they can still create shots sometimes is the system is their point guard. They move it around. With those passes, what's actually happening? Last year, they were 10th in potential assists, meaning the pass to a shooter, the shot goes up. If that goes in, that would have been an assist. They were 10th in the league in potential assists per game. This year, they're 11th, right? So, okay, about the same. Those passes are leading to shots about the same amount of time, where if those shots went in, it would become an assist. Last year, the Pacers were third in actual assists. Their ball movement got to players who could score the third most times in the league. This year, the trend dies. It's not close. They are 28th in assists. Now, assists is two stats. Assists is both passing to someone and that person making the shot. The fact that the Pacers' shot making has been dreadful is really the reason their assists is 28th, but their potential assists and passes are basically right in line with last year. But it feels so wrong to stop there, right? Why? Why are they so low in assists? Why aren't the shots going in? Who's taking them? Why are they taking them? Who's setting them up? What's going on there? So then I wanted to look at, well, how good are these shots actually, right? Because I just talked about how the Bucks shrank the floor. Certain guys were wide open, but they're not that threatening. Certain guys weren't open at all. So is the system not leading to makes? Is the system that's, creating these potential assists, not leading to good quality of shots. And you look at that. Last year, the Pacers were 28th in the terms of the percentage of shots they took that were tightly contested. That's very good. You don't want to take many of those. This year, they're 18th. It's a little worse, but that's not freaky. Last year, they were 26th in just regular contested shots. This year, they're 24th. Okay, about the same. Last year, this is where things flip, but are similar. They were 19th in open shots. This year, they're second. That's great. They're creating open shots. Last year, they were second in wide open shots, and they're 19th this year. So that's one difference that I think is a little bit of my thesis right now, and I'll get to my part two of this, is for why the Pacers offense is struggling a bit is, and one player that we'll talk about, this is very true of, their better or best shooters are still getting looks that you're happy with as the Pacers. An open shot, a shot that can make, one that the Pacers earned by running their offense, but the defender is like a step closer than they were last year because the Pacers aren't creating as much threatening rim pressure, right? It's easier for opponents to stay closer to shooters, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, whoever it may be, and leave other guys, and not be as, we got to dive into the paint because there's already a clogged paint, or there's already a defensive force there. There's already a center in the paint under the basket in a way that they had more spacing last year with their fives, not even counting the guy that we just spent a whole day talking about, like Thomas Bryant provided that as well. So I think that's part of it, is their best shots are not quite as good as last year. They're still creating a lot of very good shots, right? I just said they were second in open looks. They're still doing a good job of not taking really, really bad shots. But to me, that is kind of thesis number one, is they aren't creating shots that are as open as the ones they took last year. And yet I'm still kind of like, well, wait, why that one? Because I can see the game. Jarris Walker's wide open as the paint's clogged up, or Ben Shepherd's wide open as the paint's clogged up. And that's where you get to like the duh part of this. In some ways, where injuries are certainly a factor, right? The players that are standing behind the three-point line and creating spacing, or the healthy players that are centers, are just, it's not creating as much spacing. And I remember vividly when Rick Carlisle last year, when the Pacers offense was struggling early in the season and they beat Chicago. Before that Chicago game, he said in practice, they worked so much on their spacing principles. They really believe in what their spacing does in terms of opening up the floor, opening up things for players. And so if you have different players or less threatening shooters and your spacing isn't as good, it's harder to be the Pacers, even if you're doing a lot of the Pacers-y stuff very well, right? So that's a big part of it, is they just having this group that they currently have healthy, which once again, by the way, is transforming for this game tonight against the Nets. We'll talk about injuries later. It's not quite the same in terms of the openness of it, and it's not quite the same in terms of how the defense respects it, and that certainly matters when you're calculating how open these shots are, what it's actually doing for the Pacers. And yet, I just, every time I got an answer, I'm like, okay, cool, that like tells me something, but like, why? Let me keep going. So I wanted to look again at the four players who are playing decent to significant minutes this year that also played a lot last year, and that's Siakam, Shepherd, Walker, and Nesmith, right? There's a lot of guys playing a lot this year who played some last year, but most of the high-minute guys are hurt. So Siakam is taking 5 more shots per game than last year. Currently, he's taking less wide-open shots and more open shots, right? So he fits what the Pacers' current shot diet is very well. He's kind of the face of it. He's seeing a lot of challenging defensive situations when he's self-creating, when he's open off the ball. I think defenses are, a little closer. They're like, okay, Siakam's actually more threatening than whatever the Pacers are doing because he's a decent shooter. Aaron Nesmith is taking 5 more shots per game than he was last year. Most of his shots are actually more open. I found that to be remarkable. Same kind of deal with the less wide open. Defenses do not want Aaron Nesmith to take a wide open 3. They'll let him take anything else, and he's gotten pretty good over the years at some of those mid-rangers or attacking the rim kind of shots, but not so much finishing those this year. So a guy who actually is benefiting from the Pacers' current reality can't make the shots. They really need Nesmith to make shots. Jarris Walker is currently a big bumper. 8 more shot attempts than last year. Guess what? He's taking fewer wide open shots and more open shots, also fitting the Pacers' bill. He's taking a lot of threes that, I think he should just take them earlier. I wish he would just stop hesitating, because it looks like he's kind of open and he assesses, and the defense doesn't really close out that hard because they're not afraid of him. And then he takes a less open 3 and he misses. Ben Shepherd is taking 2.5 more shots per game They are way less open. He's actually getting defended much more. He can't make anything. I don't think the level of defense really matters with him. But you're seeing with specific players this exact trend continue in that the shot's still open. It's still one that I'll watch it back the next day and be like, yeah, that's a good shot. I've seen that player make that shot before. But it's not those wide open, mega comfy ones that you loved being created as often for any of those core guys, right? But it's not that much of a shift on any of them. Like I just said more or less when describing them, but very few of those percentages outside of Shep were like dramatically different. And so I still kind of land on a couple things. One, I do think the spacing is just a little different. I think that some of the shooters are being guarded tighter, the right ones are, and the other ones are just not hardly being guarded at all. And that makes it easier for the for Pacers opponents to defend Siakam, or they're guarding a center, they can plant in the paint. We're seeing how all that really hits them. And so just missing was like my take for a little bit, and it still sort of is. Like some of these players we know can make more shots than this, they're just not. But just missing is true. It also just hits wrong to me at some point. Like it's been 7 games. Are you just missing for 7 games? When's the point where I'm like, no, that's too many. Clearly something is going on. And then there's the obvious stuff that I haven't said yet. Like all these stats tell you the Pacers are playing the same way. They're generating pretty good to open shots, and they're just not making them. And they're being defended a little different with how close the defender is. And yet, like some of their best shot makers are not available. You know, Bennedict Mathurin's not available. Johnny Furphy's not available. Tyrese Haliburton's not available. Obi Toppin not available. These are good shot makers. They're just not available. Great setup men are not available. All of their point guards, right, are not available. The shot quality and spacing goes down without these players. But it just feels like a cop-out because the available players can be better than this. They can be. I've seen them do it before. Now, maybe not in this specific alignment and circumstance, but I think the Pacers will have more games close shooting percentage-wise to the Bucks when they just played in that like low to mid-30s range. They were about that in the Warriors at some point soon. And the question is, can that be enough for them to win with their defense at the level it is? Because their offensive style has still been there. They've been passing a lot. The assists, they're trying to generate them. They're creating good enough shots to get assists, and they can't make a thing because I think the defender's just a little closer to the right guys and a little farther away from the guys that don't need to be. And it's just the best players are taking just a little bit harder shots. And some of that's injury, and some of that is just how things are going for the Pacers. Speaking of injury, got way more to talk about there. Ugh. And this is also part of the offensive equation. It's all coming up here on Locked On Pacers. But first, everybody, a quick break to talk about 2 wonderful groups of people. First up is FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next fourth quarter comeback to so much more. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up. Play your game with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's also very quickly talk about Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses solves nothing. We've all heard it before. It's just stress. I'm tired. It happens to everybody sometimes. But when it comes to performance, something your body needs is just a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. They offer fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get involved. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, and no in-person appointments. If you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private. It's handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNBA. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNBA so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today. And every single day, your second listen has to be Locked On Bulls. What a comeback. They were not winning at all until the very end, and they got it done. Sixers Bulls, like a fun, fascinating game between good teams early in the season. What on earth is the NBA? Maybe nothing, because the Bucks were 2-8 last year and made the playoffs, and the Suns were spectacular, and they did not. Okay. Whew. Lot to discuss on the Pacers shot-making front and their offense. But I want to right now talk about injuries. Yes, everyone's favorite topic at this point of the season, because this is also part of their offensive struggles. these groups just have no rhythm together. Even if these players have combined forces at some point, like just not even having a nominal point guard. And Quentin Jackson, by the way, his on-off numbers are crazy because he just gives the Pacers something nobody else does. They're like plus something with him out there and minus $1 billion without him, right? If you've ever started for the Pacers, Quentin did a few times last year. He got big bumps in camps to his minutes, to his playing time, what units he was with. If you've started, that group has togetherness and connectivity, right? Nesmith, Siakam together. Isaiah Jackson's been with that group for basically all of camp to now. The fourth and fifth starter has changed. Jackson, the guys that was supposed to be, et cetera. But, that group has the most togetherness. But outside of that, it's just like, what can the Pacers even do? And that really also plays a factor in the shots they're able to create and the quality of those shots. Is just like every game, I'm typing down notes about like, what is this group? Why are they together? What's the actual choice here? Oh, I see why, but is this the time to do that? And then I come on this podcast and I grab the mic and I'm like, hey, it was the third quarter and the lineup was Talon Peter, Ben Shepherd, myself, my mom, and, Jay Huff or something. Like it's just always been weird and unique. And like the Pacers have to do that a lot of the time. They started two centers together in Minnesota. And I was like, yeah, they have to, right? They have to do that to feel the rotation that makes any sense. And then they lost Obi Toppin that night, right? Like that, it's not appealing to just shrug at a 1-6 Pacers team and go, well, they're missing shots and they're really hurt. Like there's obviously stuff they could do better. They've won games as an injured team before. They've won close games with this available group basically before. They just did it against Golden State. Lots of teams deal with injuries. Lots of teams go through slumps. But like they've got to get through all this. And it's getting worse. That's the painful part. Again, I tweeted out Siakam's comments where he said it's like, it's not funny, but it's like a little ridiculous to the point of, you kind of just have to laugh when it comes to these injuries because they have two more now. Two more. Johnny Furphy left the Bucks game on crutches. He's out for Pacers Nets. And of course, Quentin Jackson is too after he suffered a hamstring strain. Like I always say, if you see it and it's a muscle thing, odds are that player will not be playing in the next game unless it's like game 7 of the finals for anybody. That's a bad time to joke. That's not even a joke. Like that's just a reference point I'm making of guys pushing through injury. Unless it was a playoff game. Let's say that. Regardless, 8 guys out for the Pacers on Wednesday. Tyrese Haliburton, TJ McConnell, Cam Jones, Johnny Furphy, Quentin Jackson, Andrew Nembhard, Ben Mathurin, and Obi Toppin will all not be available for that game. Still have 10 guys available. Ray J. Dennis, who's probable and like maybe was banged up in their last game. Aaron Nesmith, Jarris Walker, Pascal Siakam, and Isaiah Jackson. That's like a starting 5 that's good and makes sense and has like guys who can all fill a very specific role. And then their bench is a bunch of wings and forwards and 2 centers. Ben Shepherd, Mac McClung, Jeremiah Robinson are almost no shot creation for others with that group. And then Jay Huff and Tony Bradley. Like, what? Who thought these groups would ever play together? And what can you even do about it if you're the Pacers? This might be a game where they have to play 2 centers together. They've gotten away with Huff at the 4. I'm not saying it's gone well, but they've done it to the point that it's like, yeah, okay, I guess you can do that. He's your best shooter off the bench, but they don't have 2 point guards available, period. Like it's not like even including 2 ways or standard guys. Like Ray J. Dennis is it. So they're going to have to stagger Siakam with that second unit. And so I wonder if in this game you see the first sub being Jay Huff, or I can't even believe this. It is the 8th game of the season. It would not shock me at all if Jeremiah Robinson Earl was the Pacers' first sub against the Nets, or one of their first subs, so they can take Siakam out and have Ray J. Dennis and Jarris Walker and Aaron Nesmith and see if that's enough shot creation until Siakam comes back in with like Shepherd and McClung and whatever center or spacer or big man they use for that bench group, right? So it's just very, very, very painful for the Pacers, the situation they're in injury-wise, because these groups have never played together and they have to try to like get weird to cobble things together. They're playing 2 centers at the same time. It just stinks. The other part of this that stinks is something I talked about that just got worse given what just happened against the Bucks with the Furphy and Jackson injuries. I talked about this after last weekend when I had the wedding. I missed the games live. I watched them one on Friday night and one Sunday. And it's like the other part that stinks about like when Furphy is out is when there's moments where you're just like, what are you doing as the Pacers? Like, what are they doing? Why are they doing it that way? Why are they playing this player at this time? A lot of just why. And like, we all know why. We're watching it. They're very hurt. But at the same time, that's where when they're doing the why stuff or when, they're trying funky things and it's not working, I'm like, man, I'm sure they'd love to be trying their young guys in some way, right? They have to have a vet on the floor a lot of the time. Tony Bradley's a vet. Jay Huff's 28. Siakam's obviously in his 30s. Nothing young about some of those guys. A lot of the youth they could play instead, they can't. Ben Mathurin, young, developing, balled out to start the season. Tons of questions about him. They need him to play as much as possible to learn about him. And he was balling, meeting the challenge to start the season. He's out. Andrew Nemhard's young, same deal. Lots of questions about him. Learn how he plays a point guard. They got him for a half. Quentin Jackson's young-ish, I guess. He's a very liked player for a reason. He's a potential rotation level guard. He's maybe not young, but he's out. And then Cam Jones and Johnny Furphy are their two most recent standard contract draft picks. Like, if you're the Pacers, you'd love to see those guys play at all. Are they anything good? If they're good now, then you're maybe more likely or willing to trade some of your other young guys for some sort of positive value. If you have no idea because they're not playing or you don't get enough chances to see them get any better, they're just kind of toiling away. And they're not like wasting their spots or anything. There's nothing they can do about it. They're hurt. It's just that is what makes it so painful to me. Is it's like, you hope if you're the Pacers, if you're going to be dealing with 8 injuries, it's like all vets or even all young guys, and you can actually win the games with the vets. Instead, they're kind of in this middle ground where it's half young guys, half old guys, and they don't really know what's going on when they're all together on the floor, and they're just figuring it out on the fly. So I could tell you, like, anecdotally a lot of reasons, and I just mentioned some of them, why their offense stinks, and I can tell you about all these injuries, but I keep forgetting who's hurt because there's so many guys, and I keep watching them and going, it feels like the paint's a little clogged. And you really look at the stats and you see why. So they've got to find a way to manufacture spacing without shooters or with fewer shooters. They've got to find a way to get their shots just a smidge more open. And they've got to find a tough rotation for their game tonight against the Brooklyn Nets, who I thought for a second this game would be to decide who is the last team winless in the NBA. The Pacers have won, the Nets have not. But what are you, or should you be watching for in this game? Are the Nets truly as bad as some people are saying? Well, finish up today's Locked On Pacers talking about all of that. One more break here, everybody. I want to tell you about Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you could focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place. Without the hassle or the hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means there's no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools, they have offer letters, onboarding materials, direct deposits. You know when you can reach certified HR experts anytime, so you have real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. You'll get 3 months for free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months free of free payroll. 3 months of free payroll. At gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNBA. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day for your second listen. The Sixers are also apparently good. They blew their game against the Bulls. The Jazz scored a buzzer beater against the Celtics. Locked On Jazz could be your second listen of the day. Okay, the Nets are the Pacers' opponent tonight. And I saw a tweet the other day that actually stunned me. It said, who do you think is the assist leader on the Nets right now? No peeking. And I guessed 3 times, and I didn't know. The answer at the time, this is no longer the case. The answer at the time was Ben Suraf. They're one of their many first-round picks from this most recent draft. Their current top 3 in assists per game. Let's do top 4. It's even more goofy. Nick Claxton is first at 3.4. Michael Porter Jr. is second at 3. Terrence Mann is third at 3 as well. And Cam Thomas is fourth. Yegor Jemin, Ben Suraf, Tyrese Martin, all right behind them. Like, they are not able to create a lot of shots. They're 26th in assists, and that's really what this team is going to struggle with all season, is their offense is going to suck. And somehow they're 23rd on offense and 30th in defense because their defense also sucks. Name one good defensive player on the Nets. Nick Claxton had a moment there, but they're so young and disconnected. They've had effort call-outs from their head coach that this is going to be a team the Pacers are just better than on paper, and that does not mean they're going to win. We've done this Pacers bit for years where they lose exactly to this team after beating the Bucks, right? But there is absolutely nothing that the Nets do well. You look at 4 factors. They turn it over a good amount. Their offensive rebound rate's just kind of they never get to the line. Their 23rd in per shot efficiency, right? They take a lot of threes, even though they make just an okay amount. They don't defend very well. Like, that's not an appealing thing. Last in defensive rebounding. At least they hit the offensive glass. The team is not very good. There's a lot of rookies on it. That's the hope if you're the Nets, is that you have a young team that's not particularly good, is not ruffling any feathers. That's the Pacers' opponent. They stink. The Pacers don't have to win, but, like, they should, and they really kind of need it. The way the standings are right now, they cannot afford to this season be dropping these games against teams that are just awful, whose assist leaders are guys that are like, wait, you pass to that level? Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. are both scoring over 20 points a game. They're going to be tough covers. Someone's going to have to guard them. I bet Neesmith is on Cam Thomas, and I would bet that Pascal Siakam is on Michael Porter Jr., but, like, there's a lot of ways that could go, and they have to slow those guys down. They cannot make this game be close. All their games have been close, except for their 2 blowout losses. They can't let that happen, right? They just can't let it happen. And so I could go on and on about how crummy the Nets are. You know it. Every stat shows it. Every choice they've made shows it. Even some of their bad players got assigned to the G League, which on one hand damages their rotation from what they've been doing so far. On the other hand, those players have not been very good. That might help the Nets to not have them around and instead be sticking with their NBA guys. So they're just not very good. The Pacers are not playing very well. They have some offensive issues to fix. They have some shot making to do. And we will see how it actually manifests on the floor and who ends up winning the game with all of that in mind. That's all I got on the Nets. We'll talk about the game tomorrow if the Pacers can get win number 2. And then if they had won all their clutch games, they'd be like 5-3 at that point. So an opportunity certainly for the Pacers. I saw a tweet about this. I suppose I should mention it because this is a certainly non-trivial percentage of fans. If you are a lose and angle for draft positioning fan, you are the world's biggest Nets fan tonight, because they are going to be one of the tougher challenges for the Pacers or any team who might be hoping for a good draft pick to get below them in the standings. And that is the end of that. I want to one time, I've never said this on the podcast. I've been doing it for like 2 weeks now, but I started my own website. It's called Circle City Spin. I keep mentioning it off the top so I can write more stories that I want to write. And I, was kind of limited in cap and what I could do writing wise every month. And I don't have to do that anymore. All the stories have original reporting mixed in there. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. A lot of them are big questions for me, writing about every game, details from the arena that you can't get if you aren't there. If that is interesting to you, right now it's free. You can sign up, see if you like it. You'll get the story straight to your inbox. If you don't, great, don't sign up. If you do, great, because eventually, a lot of the insider info stuff I will put behind a paywall. That's how this works. But if you like it enough, I hope it's worth it to you. And if it's not, that's great. I'm not going to ask you to pay any more than I would for anything else. But that is your updates on the Pacers. We'll be talking Pacers Nets tomorrow, and we'll bring in a guest for Friday. They have 2 days off. 2 days off. How about that in the middle of the season? After today, before they head out on another 4-game road trip. So we'll figure out who that guest is at the time. Thank you all so much for listening today. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking Pacers Nets. Till then, everybody have a wonderful day.